Hello, my name is Madhavi Nawana Parker, and I'm author and co-author of lots of different books. And I want to share with you today just how you can become an author if that's what you want to do, or how you can become whatever you want to be. So I'm going to share with you the story of me becoming an author, and you can see how that fits in with the story of how you're going to be who you want to be or what you want to be. So I really wanted to share with you the very first book I've ever written, and I have hunted through our home and through my office and through every book box of treasures I possibly could, and I simply cannot find it. But it was a book, and it was in something a little bit like this, a little exercise book, and it was just a story of my life so far. And I was in year 5, and I wrote it at school, and I was so proud of it. And back then, everything was on paper. So I'd handwritten it all, and I'd taken the few things that had happened in my life so far and written a little story about it. And boy, right from the beginning of my life, I just knew I loved to write. So I wrote and wrote and wrote. And I think from memory, there was about 10 chapters in it, which sounds about right, because I reckon I'd been alive for about 10 years. So when I wrote that book, I felt amazing, and I really enjoyed every moment of it. And it was far from perfect, right? There would have been lots of spelling errors in there, and bits that I had to erase, and drawings that I looked back like just a year later and went, oh, I don't know about that. But it was mine, and it was my very, very best effort, and I felt great, and I still remember the grade. And I want to remind you guys, it's not about the grade, it's about how hard you work. And I knew I'd worked really hard, and I wanted to know that my teacher saw that, and she gave me 47 out of 50. And it was like, oh my goodness, I don't think I'd ever got a grade like that before in my life. So it was a really, really exciting thing, and I still love that story. And I was just reading it to my own 3 children quite recently, and obviously didn't put it away in a very easy place to find. So that was my first book. And then, after that, there were lots of other books. Like, I remember writing this one, which I'll flick through really, really quickly, because it's got lots of people's personal stuff in it. But that book was like when I was in high school. I was in year 8, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've got all of these fantastic friends. I really, really like them. And I wonder whether they'd like to write a storybook with me. And they did. So that's called co-authoring, I guess. And it's writing with other people. And so what we all put in there were like our special photos and the music we loved to listen and who our friends were at the time. And I still treasure that book. And then after that, I wrote another book, and that book was like, I was still in high school. It was a really pretty book that somebody gave me, and I wrote poetry. Now, sure, I looked at that poetry probably again a year or 2 later and went, oh, but they were my poems, and I wrote them with my heart full of love and about all the things that were going on in my life at the time. And then after that, there was a bit more writing, and this was from 1994. I started writing a journal and just wrote every single night about my day. So really, probably very boring for anyone else to read about, but all through that is a whole bunch of writing about what went on in my day. Now, what I'm getting to is the whole process of being an author now, where I have, I think, 9 published books, 8 or 9 books. And when it's published, it means someone else goes, hey, I like your books. I'm really happy to print these books. And these books are shared all around the world. I think last time I heard, in over 87 countries. And that makes me feel really happy, because I still write with a heart full of love. And so to get to that point, it took me a very, very long time. The first book I wrote was certainly far from being a bestseller, guys. So I just practiced, all those books I've just shown you was just daily practice, writing about what I loved and cared about. And sometimes writing about stuff I didn't love and care about, but it was stuff I needed to write about because that's what I was asked to write about in my English class. So it was all practice, right? Writing about stuff you love is practice and much easier. Writing about stuff you're not even particularly interested in is also practice, right? And so I practiced and practiced and practiced. And my first book did not look like the books that followed that, which I'll be showing you in a moment. And, you know, you're already a writer. You're already a step towards being who or what you want to be. So always remember that you are already making the steps you need to be that person and have that job that you want to have later on in your life. Every day we take steps through our words and through our actions and through the thoughts that go through our minds towards that goal that we want to be. And look, your books might look something like this. This is from one of my children. I have 3 children, and it might be stapled down the side, and it might have a picture, and it might have some words and a whole bunch of other things. Or your books might be about a book that you've already read and felt really inspired by and thought, I'm going to write my own version. So what's this one that one of my boys has written? Captain Underpants and the Toilet Surrender. So it might be inspired by something you've already read, and it might have your own stories and lots more blank pages to fill in. Or another thing that I used to love writing when my kids were really, really little, and my youngest is 7 now, but I have 3 children, and I remember making this book. I used to make books about them all the time, like the holidays we went on, and I would take my favorite photos. And this one, I think I'm just like talking about the things that our daughter loves. So she loves swimming and snorkeling and doing that kind of thing. She loves Lego, and we love family holidays, going to this beautiful place called Port Moorawi, and we love our friends. And so I feel books like this. She loves drawing, just with all of these things. I think that might have been one of her drawings. And so I filled books with our adventures as a family too. And that's a form of writing, because I sit down and I think with a heart full of love. Because, you know, I really mean it's so important, you know, what we do, that we do it with love, that we find something that fills our heart and our mind, and then that's the signal that, okay, maybe I'm on to something that I want to do. And look, it followed with lots and lots of other books. I'll show you some of those as well. The first one I ever wrote that was published was with a good friend of mine called Mark Lemesurier, and we wrote this book. I think this was the first one. This is actually the second edition of the first one, and that was in 2010. We both worked with kids, right, and care very much about children, and children knowing how to be a good friend to themselves and a good friend to others. So what I thought to myself was, right, and then Mark thought the same thing to himself, how do we share this with other people? So we're having a conversation one day in our office where we used to practice together, and we're like, let's just write a book about this. Let's just write a book about how to be a good friend, and pull together everything the two of us know about children and schools, because we've both done that for a very, very long time. It was our career, part of our career. And so we wrote this book, What's the Buzz? And it was for primary aged kids, right? And we basically, look, I'll tell you, it's like there's like 80,000 words in each of these books, and that I've written with Mark and that I've written on my own. And those words really come from everyday kids, you know, everyday kids who came to us with their problems, and we thought, all right, well, how do we look at that problem and write a solution? So after we wrote that one, we thought, oh my gosh, imagine if we can teach social skills and friendship skills to really little kids. So then this next book was born, and this one was the early learners one, so for 4-year-olds and up. And so it taught about how to make friends when you're 4, how to deal with the big feelings when you're 4. And so then we wrote that one, and that's full of all the same stuff. And then I'd written those 2 books with Mark, and I thought, oh my goodness, one of the things that I teach so much about every day is how kids can be resilient, how adults can be resilient, how can you handle those tough feelings. So in between the next couple of books, I wrote this one about resilience. And after that, I thought, okay, well, to be resilient and to be a good friend, you need to have some confidence. So Then I wrote this one about confidence. And then Mark and I were chatting again. We went, oh my goodness, what about teenagers? Like, we can't forget the teenagers. Teenagers need to know about how to handle their feelings and make friends. So then we wrote this one. And then I thought, oh my goodness, what about all the people who don't come and see someone for help when they're having a tough time? What do they do? So then I wrote sanguine. I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book with a whole bunch of things that you can write straight into, where someone spends 21 days just trying to figure out how to clear their mind and build their confidence, even if they don't have someone to help them. And my last one to date, as I thought about the beautiful teachers and SSOs and principals and school counsellors that work in schools, and I wrote this one on educator wellbeing. And so I've written all of these books, but what I want to say, so to get to that pile of different books, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens from doing something you love. And so that takes me to my very last and most important point, my friends, is this. Instead of thinking about what you want to be, instead of thinking about what job you want to be, you can think about that. But I really think that for me, what's helped me through my whole life is really having a clear idea about who I want to be. And I knew from when I was a very, very little girl that I just wanted to be kind. I knew from the beginning that being kind worked. It never failed me. And I loved it when people were kind to me. And so through that, that's really where my career began, is I knew that friendship mattered. I knew that resilience mattered. I knew that confidence mattered, and it mattered in friendships. And when things went well in friendships and things went well at school and at home, life just felt so much better. So I knew that I had to use that strength of mine. And that's what you got to do, kids. You got to figure out, what are your strengths? What are you good at? What makes your heart sing? What do you care about? Who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? And from that, you go and live like that. And every single day is a step towards that goal. And that will take you to finding a job you really love, because we need all kinds of jobs in this world, right? All of the jobs matter. Every job matters. So if you want to be a teacher, then when you learn something, think about how you can role model that to other people, or teach people that are younger than you with kindness and patience, just like teachers do. And then you're living your dream before you've reached your dream. Or if you want to be a psychologist, I went on and I studied psychology after I'd finished school. I was really interested in the human mind. So I went on and I studied psychology and counseling and other stuff. And that's what I did. I thought, I want to know everything I can about this thing I care about, which is how people get along and make friends. So I studied it and I learned about it, and then I practiced it. And I really just try really hard to live what I teach. I try really hard to be a nice person and help when I can, and care about other people's thoughts and feelings and show them empathy. So what was my point? Oh yeah. So like, if you want to be a policeman, for example, you don't go around telling everyone when they're doing the wrong thing, because that's like a really bad idea, because it really annoys people. But what you do is you think, all right, well, what do policemen do and policewomen do? What do? Is police officers care about people. They want to protect people. And so you do the right thing every day. And when you don't, because you're a kid and you're still learning, or you're a teenager and you're still learning, you just make it better. That's all we can do with our mistakes, is learn from them and make things better. If you want to be an artist, then enjoy art, practice art, paint, draw, and then give those things to other people, and then study it and learn as much as you possibly can to be that. So if you want to be any of those things, or a musician or an actor, or a psychologist or a counselor or a gardener or any of those things that you want to be, just start with those small baby steps every day towards your goal. Nothing happens immediately. It happens through time and practice and effort and lots of times where it doesn't work out. But when it doesn't work out, you go, okay, that didn't work. So what have I learned? And lots of setbacks, lots of times that things go wrong. And when things go wrong in your life, you think about how you are going to make a comeback that's better than your setback. So I wish you all the best with being the person you want to be, being whatever you want to be. Make sure you use your beautiful strengths and keep working on those. And I wish you the most beautiful life. Thank you for listening. Bye.